There you go.
It is 2:07. I'm going to call the public hearing on the district export fee schedule adoption to order.
Okay, so we have, we've received comment from Paulina Williams concern and Upwell and others on the about the export fees. I don't know, have you received to make comments on that?
I did.
That's the only comments that we've received.
Okay.
So
We'll call Paulina Williams, make comments on the export fee.
Good afternoon. Thank you for your time today. UW-BBF has filed comments on the district's proposed export fee schedule, and y'all have copies of those. I have extras if they're needed. Please let me know. Our comments explain that the Brazos Valley GCD does not have statutory authority to charge export fees on permitted values. Your statutory authority is the authority to charge export fees based on water actually exported out of the district. The district has previously pointed to, for example, Post Oak Savannah as charging based on permitted volumes, but the fees that are accepted by permittees in other districts do not reflect the legal limits of this district's statutory authority. Charging fees beyond the limits of your statutory authority would be ultra vires action that exposes individual board members in the district to legal challenge on that proposal. And so we would ask that this board revise the proposed fee schedule to comply with the limits of this district's statutory authority. There's more details about this, a very detailed reflection of your Enabling Act, as well as Chapter 36 of the Water Code that have been outlined in writing as provided to you. We are certainly happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next speaker I have is Eddie McCarthy.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Eddie McCarthy. I'm an attorney in Austin, here representing multiple landowners. My comments are very similar to those that you got from Ms. Williams. As drafted, what was put on the district's website, the proposed change to the fees is outside of your statutory authority. Texas Water Code 36.122 is very clear that the export fees are for water that is actually used, water that is actually exported. As drafted, it appears that the district would be able to charge transport fees on water produced just on the paper amount, which, as Ms. Williams said, would exceed the statutory authority. So I'm not sure what the intent was. I know I would expect that that wasn't the district's intent, but wanted to bring that to y'all's attention. So hopefully that can be cleared up. Thank you very much. Happy to answer questions.
Next speaker I have is Ms. Kathy Goss. Hi.
Hi.
All right.
Thanks, right. I'm not as eloquent as the attorneys. My feeling is that, yes, you'll probably have to charge transport fees if they're within your realm to charge, because that is the nature of business and you're gathering water to help the district. It's to help the district. However, I think that raising the fees and setting another elevated amount each year is really not in the best interest, because it appears that you just want to block anybody from transporting water to other areas. Once the water is in the pipeline, if it's within your right and your ability to raise the fees, that's a possibility. But until the water's actually in the pipeline, I don't think you should continue to raise fees until there's something to raise fees on. If in our business, we knew that parts are going up, we don't charge people the additional 20% we're being charged till we actually have something to charge against them. And I hope you will consider this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this item from the public hearing? All right.
we fleshed this out over 2 meetings, all board meetings, where we talked about not only the export fees, but the production fees. So I don't think we have any district staff and everything to add. If anybody's got any questions.
Clarification on what the Enabling Act says or not?
Sure.
So 36 says that we can charge it up to 20% with a 3% after that inflation fee for water exported out of the district. That is what the proposal states, that you won't be charged to the 20% or more until after it actually exports the district. And then 36 also, 122 also says that you can use your enabling act or the chapter 36, the general law. And our enabling act specifically says in 88.35.151 of the Special Districts Local Law Code of fees for the district, for Brazos Valley Groundwater Conservation District, that the board by rule may impose a reasonable fee on each well that is not exempt from regulation by the district and for which a permit is issued by the district. This fee may be used on this fee may be based on 1, the size of column pipe used by the well, or 2, the actual, authorized, or anticipated amount of the water to be withdrawn from the well. Then it has B that talks about production fees, and it has C that talks about export fees. A is generic, it just says fees, therefore it applies to both B and C. I was integral in drafting in 2001 this enabling act for the district, as well as working with the legislature last session on 36, and that was the intent, to my knowledge. And it's expressly stated in the statute.
So it's of your opinion that we can charge based on the permit amount?
The plain language of our enabling act says that unauthorized amount is the option, and that's it. And that is why Post-Oak Savannah has the same enabling act, and they've done that from the very beginning. It wasn't challenged by their water markers on Vista Ridge either.
All right. Any questions from the board? Close public hearing. You go to the regular board meeting?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. First item of business will be pledge of allegiance. Please stand. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Afternoon.
Ah,
Good traffic, huh?
There were truck in Texas on this.
We have a quorum present with Mr. John Elliott absent. Next item of business will be public comment. Have any public comment on non-agenda items?
we didn't receive anything.
Public comment on agenda items. Would you like to speak now or? Pauline, come on.
Good afternoon, Pauline Williams again. Thank you again for your time. I'm commenting on behalf of landowners in Robertson County, including the Lutz family, the Skiles, the Pizzinos, the Holscher family, Dr. Bryan, and UW Brazos Valley Farm. And I'd like to start with some facts about the Simsboro. This is a huge formation spanning dozens of counties. It's an amazing resource for the entire region, not just for the cities of Bryan and College Station and for Texas A&M. Hydrologists and water planning groups describe this aquifer as prolific. The Simsboro aquifer has enough water to support local and regional needs. That is why Robertson County landowners came together to use their private property rights in groundwater to create a new regional water supply that is to meet real needs in this region. There is plenty of water for both the local and regional economies to prosper. The city of Bryan's PR spin lately is simply wrong. Those parties are asking you to set aside the interest of landowners in Robertson County in favor of their interests. And we are asking you not to let the interest of a few politically powerful entities get in the way of treating all landowners fairly. The interests of Brazos County should not outweigh those of Robertson County landowners and their private property rights that were exercised in accordance with this district's rules. As you know, there is a current dispute, and it is about permits that this district issued to dozens of landowners during a period of time in 2023. The district issued the permits because they complied with the rules and properly considered aquifer conditions. The permittees, their customers, and third parties have relied on those final permits issued by this district to the tune of millions of dollars spent. A&M, Bryan, and College Station have been trying to exploit a technicality from the time of the board eligibility issue to cast doubt on this district's permits, but only as to one project, not as to everybody. And this district, recognizing that it could set its ship right, adopted a rule, Rule 8.3J, with the explicit intention of remedying that issue, not restarting the entire process on final signed, relied upon permits. The district explained that intention in the public record. We submitted comments, and I have a copy of those comments if anyone wants an additional one, explaining how the district can use the plain language of its rule in alignment with its original intention to the rule to shut down the games that are being played by A&M and protestants, city and College Station as well. With a plain language reading of the rule, we can all return to reality. We can, when the district actions were final, those final permits mean something. They have integrity. That is true. So Rule 8.3J, just to take a moment, bars after the fact hearing requests on final permits, period. The rule is written in past tense. The district did not receive hearing requests under Rule 14.3.5A. 14.3.5 requires a request in advance of a hearing. The relevant hearings happened. They were noticed. They were held. And Rule 8.3J gives Mr. Day authority to reissue permits without any further hearing. It simply does not make sense to read this rule to open a door to years late hearing requests. We ask the district to apply its rules fairly and equally to everyone. Late filed requests are untimely. Final permits are final permits. General Manager Day should exercise his authority to ministerially reissue those past permits, and we can all move on from this. As a contingency, and to illustrate what happens if the district adopts A&M and the city's twisting of your ratification rule, we have submitted contingent contested case hearing requests on other final signed permits. The request, like A&M's, is time barred if the district uses a plain language reading of Rule 8.3J and takes action through its general manager to validate all final permits, instead of allowing continued attack on a small handful of Robertson County landowners who came here and complied in good faith with the rules of this district. We ask again that the board defend its own past actions and respect private property rights for the good of all landowners and the district as a whole. And I do have to state on the record again that because the cities of Bryan and College Station are litigants and protestants of project-related permits, we would ask that they recuse themselves from deliberations and actions on all matters, including the A&M litigation, as well as any pending actions related to the protested transport permits. So with that, I thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you. Mr. Eddie McCarthy, you have an agenda item you'd like to speak on?
I'm pretty much I'm gonna try and be real quick because I don't want to be too redundant.
All right.
I'm here to re-urge my comments from a few months ago when the rule hearing took place. You all have not received in the year 2024 any timely comments for any of the permits that came up in 2023. Whether it was the A&M comments, the Rule 8.3J that you heard Ms. Williams talk about, that's sort of at the crux of all this, did nothing to open a new window for contesting. Your rules about how to contest give specific deadlines. That rule got changed at one point, but either way, it's a difference. It's a matter of whether it was 5 days before the hearing or the day before the hearing that comments were due. You didn't receive any for any of the permits that have been at issue. So just wanted to re-urge those comments that you all have not received in timely contests and to please move forward as such to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. Ms. Kathy Gauss, you have anything you'd like to speak on the agenda item or?
Well, we're permit holders and y'all all know that. We're not part of the Upwell entity and what is going on there. we're not doing anything at this time with ours, but I hope in the future, if we do, that whatever transpires here will be resolved. I'm not big on litigation if it can possibly be avoided, but I understand the rights of it. We hope that y'all are able to work with this and come to a resolution, because this has been going on for a long time. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on an agenda item?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Lynn Sherman. I'm here on behalf of Texas A&M University System. And I would like to respond to the letter that Ms. Williams provided on behalf of Upwell, as well as her remarks on behalf of Texas A&M. In the letter that Ms. Williams submitted to you, she fails to point out that the very arguments that are made in the letter were actually a part of a motion before a judge in Brazos County that was ruled upon this week, and that motion was denied by the judge. It is not reflected in her letter at all, but it's important that y'all are aware of that. Secondly, there's a lot of language in her letter that she submitted on behalf of Upwell, as well as her remarks about the plain language of your rules. The letter completely omits any reference to what is the most important language in your rule, and it does come within Rule 8.3J, but it's 8.3JC2 is the most important provision relative to where we are today. And what it says is that the district cannot grant those permits if the district received any written notices of intent to contest the permit or permit amendment applications under Rule 14.3.5A. That is exactly what Texas A&M did. And there's a lot of reference about hearings that were had in the past, and we've talked about those before. The impact of not having a quorum in a meeting means that it effectively means that the meeting did not happen. Any actions that are taken there are void and have no merit. And so the first time that a quorum was present to be able to consider any action on the permits by Upwell was after Texas A&M timely filed its request for contested case hearing in compliance with Rule 8.3J. And it's also important to acknowledge that the district's own attorney in the hearing before the judge in Brazos County indicated that A&M had filed that and that they had been timely filed under the district's rules. At the end of the day, there's a lot of talk about trying to pull some type of legal theory in here to try to come up with a different result. Groundwater districts, as I'm sure your own district lawyer has told you or will tell you, is bound to abide by the statutes that govern it. And the statutes do not allow for any type of introduction of different types of legal theories that are not included in the statute itself. So we very adamantly oppose the request that's made by Upwell, as well as its landowners relative to, I believe it's item number 8. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else wish to speak on agenda items? Hearing none. Item number 1, discussion and possible action on the minutes of the November 14th, 2024 regular board meeting.
The minutes drafts are before you in your packet. We have them up online. Hope that everyone has had the opportunity to peruse those and would be open to any questions from the board at this point.
Questions from the board on the minutes?
If not, I'd ask that you approve the minutes as presented.
If not, entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
Second. Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2, financial report from November 2024.
Hey, start again, all in your books. The total deposits for the month of November, $65,798.46. Onto your balance sheet, our total current assets, $1,197,221.45, with total assets at $1,644,013.43. And moving on to liabilities and equity, you see that we balance out at that same $1,644,013.43. Looking at your budget expenditure sheet, we've gotten a total income, it says there, of $845,388.68. You see that in the other column, there's 68,000 and some change. $45,000 of that is money that we've received from UWBVF for the solar proceedings. So that's just an in and out. We're holding the money and we're making the disbursement. So it's not truly income.
And we are waiting, we're at, so is Mercy on when they call for that, and they have not provided instructions for that yet.
They've sent us the first bill
Oh, I
today.
didn't, I don't know that,
and
I don't get those.
It's very, very small, and Cynthia's gonna be working on making however we're gonna be making those payments. So moving on down to the bottom of total expenses, for the year is at $991,607.83. Most of that being of that overage of what we had budgeted coming from legal fees that were unanticipated and very large hydrogeologic work. Most of that being done on the transport permits and now into the SOA process. So we're at 114.47% of what we had budgeted for 2024. The next page is our collateralization report. Our 4 CDs are all sitting at 4.5%, all in short-term 6 month. And we're at 121.7 days weighted average maturity date. And percent of portfolio, we're at just over 65% in CDs and just approaching 35% on cash. With our collateralization levels at the Prosperity Bank, we're at 139%. At South Star Bank, we're at 172%. Last 2 sheets, the expenses by vendor totaled $71,057.61 from the operating account, and the well assistance fund. We had 3 checks or 3 disbursements. You see there to advanced or AGS and the other 2 for work John did on mitigation type work with 1 deposit. And currently the balance in that account is at $48,597.34. Any questions from the board?
Any questions from the board on the financial report?
Not, I'd ask you if you accept the report as presented, please. Approved.
Entertain the motion.
I make a motion, we accept the report as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3, presentation, discussion, and possible action on the adoption of the proposed 2025 district operating and capital budgets.
So the last 2 here meetings, we've had detailed line item, you have it in before you, line item of where we, for the last three budgets, where actually, expenditures, my line item. As you all know, we've had two all board, budget and fee, workshops. They have been lengthy, they have been detailed and, excellent discussion among everyone, and there was certainly consensus attained as we went through those two. After the first workshop, it was go back and find what we can cut. We were at about a $1.4 million budget at that point. We have, and that included a mitigation manager, thinking that we would be needing another staff member solely for that. It appears as we went through the process the second time that that's not going to be needed at this moment, and really not in the near foreseeable future until we get some of the litigation behind us and more clarity about what's going on there. The 32 permits that have been contested, the production permits, the one transport permit, we get some clarity from someone as to where we're going. So we've set that aside. We've set aside the extra office staff simply because we feel that no mitigation manager, that's not going to it's going to create, that was going to create a serious amount of paperwork and data entry. We've cut that one out also. And then anything that would have gone along with, as far as retirement and those kinds of things. So the budget, moving on to the actual line items, you can see that we brought that number down to $1,259,600. And that would be the actual operating budget. And our capital expenditures, and it's showing it to be renovation of the H&R Block building. What the board discussed is that to put into the budget about $100,000 in order to try and build reserves. We're vastly depleting reserves because of legal and hydrogeologic. And right now it's a lot on the legal, and it's hard to get our heads around and arms around exactly how much what that's going to look like going into 2025. But I was instructed to put 100,000 in for that. And then we still have this wall that's directly behind us for repair. We've gotten bids on it. We'll be talking more about that. So I'm instructed to put in the 25,000 to make this repair, get it sealed up, get it fixed. It's not going to be that much. Anyway, we've come to a budget of 1.4 million. It does add one new staff member full-time much like when I hired Megan, she was hired to help with education and help in the field. She basically transitioned into I'm in the classroom. I ended up being here. We've got to have someone to assist in the classroom. John needs someone. I need somebody else in the field to pick up what we're not able to get to in a timely way. So that is the addition of one full-time, not part-time, but a full-time staff member there. We've gone over all of these things in workshops. I would be more than happy to address any line items, any thoughts that you might have. I can go through line by line or.
Any questions from the board on the proposed budget from staff?
Not, I'd ask that you approve the budget as it's been presented.
All right. No questions from the board. Entertain a motion to adopt the budget as presented.
We adopt the budget as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, discussion and possible action on the adoption by resolution of FY 2025 water production, export, and administrative fee schedules following a public hearing.
So I'm going to go through this in some detail. We've talked about it a lot. I think the public, some that are here now were not at any of board workshops, so I'd like to go through this completely. Again, we've held 2 board workshops. You can see those that were listed there that have been at the most recent workshop. The first one, we had 7 which was before the last board meeting, and we had 7 of the 8 there. So it's been a really good attendance, and everybody had excellent input. We're trying to find how are we going to, this is the largest budget we've ever had. Our fees are going to amount to about with interest, it's going to amount to about 830,000, and you've got a budget of 1.4 million. And currently our revenue is based on actual water production. So that varies from year to year. In 2021, there was a lot of water pumped, and so we had more revenue in that year and in 2022, I'm sorry, than we did say this year. So it's variable. Also, we're a year in arrears on collection. So everything that got pumped in 2023, we're collecting now, 12 months later. Anything, if we were to maintain that system, then we would begin to collect in for the 2024 production, which we don't know that final production yet. We would begin collecting in January for those that are on monthly payments, or we would be asking for on the smaller accounts to be paying upon once they get the invoice. Okay. Currently, your fee structure, agriculture pays 19.75 cents per acre foot. Okay, either on metered production, if they're in an aquifer that requires a meter, then they pay on actual production at this point in time. If they have like a Brazos River alluvial well, they're paying on authorized amount, permitted amount. So we're already doing that. Okay, we're already in what is said that we can't do. We're already doing that. Okay, so it just depends on whether it's a metered well or not a metered well. The steam electric is at 31 cents per acre foot. Municipal, public water supply, and all other non-exempt wells are currently at 4.875 cents per 1,000 gallons. And our export fee for 2024 was 20 cents. So under your export fee, using our district local code and also using 36.112, we're proposing, and I hope this is, that I can get this explained properly. So we'll have 2 export fee tiers. And only one of them at this point in time in any of the near future is going to be exercised, okay? It's this until this, not produced, and then it switches over to, once production actually starts, tier 1 goes away forever for that, and tier 2 kicks in, okay? So tier 1 is based on the amount of groundwater that is authorized, which our enabling act says, authorized under a transport permit but was not exported out of the district during the fiscal year. That's based on our enabling act words, plain reading of our enabling act. So if whatever well, I'll just read it straight out. So tier one is that our enabling act says that we cannot exceed 17 cents total in a combination of water production and export fees. We can't exceed 17 cents per 1,000 gallons. So tier one is the difference of 17 cents per 1,000 gallons authorized and the adopted production fee. Okay, everybody we're all on the same page there. Okay. That would be on any transport permits on the authorized amount to be transported until water is actually transported. The moment, the month that water begins to be transported via pipeline or however else, it's got a transport permit and water begins to move, then that transport permit becomes subject to and only to tier two, which is the rate that's allowed by state law and by our rule 9.2. And so at this point, it's 20 cents. You are allowed each year at following a permit hearing, following a export fee hearing, which you just held, you can raise that annually by 3%. So what I am suggesting to you and what we've talked about is take the 20 cents it was last year times 3%. That brings it to, for this particular year, for 2025, would bring the fee under tier two to 20.6 cents per 1,000 gallons exported. That's what the law allows. So tier one is no longer in play. Tier two comes into play. If transport happens during the year, it will be switched over and prorated up to, let's just take an example. 6 months of the year, the transport permit is under tier one, okay? And not transporting. And July 1st of that year, water begins to move. It will then move over to the actual production at that point in time. Okay, and yes, Jason.
So I have a question on the export fee for tier one. So if the adopted production fee was 5 cents per 1,000, it's not, but if it was, then the amount that we would charge for the permit of export would be 12 cents.
That is correct. You
Okay.
have that authority to go up to 12 cents. You can do something less than that.
I got you.
Okay.
Limiting on the production fee, that the enabling act says that the production fee is capped at 4.25 cents with a 3% compounded inflation
Yeah,
rate.
yeah.
So that's how we've raised
Yeah,
it, just FYI.
All right. Everybody good?
And on the tier two, if we didn't raise the export fee, say in year one, does it compound as well?
It's compound. I don't know.
I mean, if we didn't do the 3% the first year and then 3 years later, could we do 3 all in 1 year? Or
I don't read it that way. I'm not an attorney. I don't read it that way. I think you have to, I don't read it that
the
way.
way you read it, you have to raise it or lose that ability to.
I do. That's the way that I read
Okay,
I reserve the right to look at it.
understood.
it. Okay, I think we got an explanation on that. Anybody want any further explanation on tiers 1 and 2? Okay, now moving on to water production fees. And I explained earlier that we are currently collecting fees in arrears, 1 year in arrear. And the board, during our conversations at the workshop, there were two things that came clear that instructed us that we need staff, that we need to collect fees during the same fiscal year. Not in arrears, get them into the year that it's actually being produced. And to get a fee structure in place that will give you a reliable revenue stream. we had a very long discussion about, everybody's gonna have to, there's gonna be those who are gonna be paying twice. They're gonna be paying the 2024 fees for actual production, because that's still in arrears that we're gonna be collecting. And then they're also gonna be what it would be, in order to get it to a reliable revenue stream, is to move the method that we would charge away from actual production and move to authorized production. Again, something that you can do under your enabling act. So, and then make that due either in monthly payments throughout the year or due by some date. We don't have an absolute dead date, but it would be maybe March 1st or March 15th, somewhere in that neighborhood, that you would pay a one lump fee, okay? Look here. All right, so with a $1.4 million budget and the conversation in our last workshop circled around, well, they're gonna have to pay twice. They got that 2024, they're gonna have to pay, and we're gonna expect them to pay something in 2025. Let's just charge a rate that covers the deficit. So we said, we're gonna be bringing in $830,000 approximately. And you got a $1.4 million budget that's gonna give you a shortfall of $570,000. So that said, we had, some time ago, we had told everyone that had a permit that had not drilled their well, and we have 210,000 acre feet that are under permit at this point that have not been drilled. And we have the rule that said everybody's permits were reset September 14th of 2023 as the beginning date of a clock that you have 3 years to drill the well at no additional cost. Okay, and then if you want to keep, you decide you want to keep the permit, then in years 4 up to and through year 5, you can keep the permit, but you'll have to pay the full authorized amount that's on the permit at the highest beneficial use rate. Okay, that's when there are consequences for not having drilled a well within 3 years, and shows that, you know, you've got a dog in the fight. That's something that you want. You want that permit. You want to drill that well. It was an incentive to drill the well, and it was a disincentive to have permits sitting in the file and gathering dust for 20 years. Okay, so that's been done long ago. We are not considering any of those permits in this calculation. So everybody needs to understand so the way we went about it is $570,000. We looked at wells that had been drilled and were capable of producing water. Okay, drilled and completed and capable of producing water. So it could have equipment in the hole, or it could have a cap on it. Capped wells are still capable of producing water. So we took, and it was, I'm going to use round numbers here, okay? It was about 133,000 acre feet of authorized permits that were capable of producing water. We at the workshop said, you know what's going to happen here is that we're going to have, let's figure that 10% of all of the permits, they're either going to abandon the permit and relinquish it, or some of these permits have agriculture and industrial, okay? And they may say, you know what, we did that a long time ago. We really and truly don't need the industrial. We just want to go back to agriculture, okay? So agricultural permits strictly agriculture were not considered in this calculation. Steam electric were not considered in this calculation. Everybody understand? We said 10% of them are either gonna relinquish or they're gonna change their permits. So we took the 133,000 plus, multiplied that by 0.9. We took out 10% of them. And that number came up to 119,372.18 acre feet. We divided that into 570,000 to come up with a rate that we're proposing from that of excuse me, let me write it down here too. 0.01465 per 1,000 gallons authorized for fiscal year 2025. That equates to $4 and almost 78 cents per acre foot. Currently, if you have a permit that is not agriculture or steam electric, because they're on a completely different rate, you're paying $15.88 per acre foot. So this is being lowered across the board to $4.78 per acre foot. The difference here is that it's incorporating wells that have not pumped. So if you've got in essence, what we're saying is, if you've got a well and you've got a permit and it's capable of producing, you're going to be part of the solution to raise the revenue to drive the budget for the district. Everybody on the same page with me at this point? What I will say is that in coming years, in coming fiscal years, whatever the budget is, and it makes the board pay attention to the budget. What do we really need? Next year, let's say that you still needed $1.4 million. That's what you decided as a budget line item. And let's say the permit stayed static. We got no new permits. We lost that 10%, whatever it might be. We'll do the same calculation, but we will divide the 119,372.18 into 1.4 million. So next year, the permit holders would be paying $11.70 something per acre foot authorized. So everyone, it's incumbent on us. If you determine this is how we want to move forward, it's going to be incumbent upon staff to make sure that all the permit holders that are out there understand the system and understand there's going to be a sticker shock in fiscal year 2025. It's going to look different in 2025. I'm open to questions.
Alan, can you give us some examples of the impact that this change will have on fee payers? Just some examples. For instance, the people that have a well that don't have any production, they're not paying anything now.
But
they're going to have to start paying.
And have not. Yes, correct.
So it's going to be a negative for them.
It's going to be a negative for them.
Okay. Can you give us some other examples? What about somebody that's only using half of what their bill will go?
The more that you use on your permit, the less impact you're going to feel. So I think that's the best way to explain it.
What does the production fee now equate to in terms of acre feet for, say, municipals or whatever, based on that forward? You had that number at one point, it's like $16 or something.
$15.88 per acre foot. And that's going down. So anyone that has a permit that was other than agriculture or electric was paying $15.88 per acre foot produced. And that's going down to $4.77 on the entire permitted amount. So I don't know, taking Brian, I think they're gonna probably pay a little less than what they would in a normal year, but they've got a lot of water permitted. Okay, so it's not like maybe they're using half their water. I don't know. I don't have that in my head, but so it's not like all of a sudden they're going from 1588 to 477 and it's just going to be that much on how much, compared to last year. They're still going to pay a substantial amount of money as College Station, as John Elliott at Robertson County Water Supply. He's not going to see as much because he uses a lot of his permit. Okay, so he's not going to see this a big savings by doing this. He's still going to be up there, but so I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Next question, these people have wells that are capable of producing. I'm sorry, the people that have wells that haven't drilled yet, and they've got the 3 years. And then the fourth and fifth year, you said they get charged take or pay for the highest rate. What highest rate are you talking about? The highest rate, the highest new rate or the highest?
No. The highest or whatever we've set in that year as the production fee for anything other than agriculture or steam electric. That's the rate.
Okay.
Because
They had a permit that had
multi-use
municipal
permits.
or ag or whatever, then they get the highest one out of all those.
So if that happened this year, which you won't, but if it happened this year, it would be these rates you're talking about, right?
That would be correct.
Next question, what about these gas wells? There's a whole bunch of gas wells that are just sitting there. They're capable of being produced. So there's a lot of these gas wells that are gonna have to start paying the bill that they're not currently paying. Is that right?
They don't have permits. They are exempt wells.
They're all
Rig supply wells. Rig supply wells are exempt under state water code.
Okay.
So if they bring one of those into production, okay, and they come to us, they have to come to us to get a permit to use it for frac purposes. They can come back in and drill a new well, but and exempt, no fees, no nothing. If they come in and say, we need to use that well and that one for frac purposes, they have to get an operating permit and then they're paying the rates. They become, and what I do foresee is like Wildfire. Wildfire probably has maybe 20 wells now that they have kept as frac wells. And I can see them saying, we don't need the permits because nothing has changed where they can't come right back in the second that they need and get a permit and it costs them $100.
Well, when they abandon the permit, that doesn't mean they have to plug the well. Is that right?
Oh, that's correct. Absolutely. We do not push that on anyone. I mean, it has always been that a drilled and completed well is an asset as long as it is not causing deterioration. It's not deteriorated, it's not.
It has to be, if it's an abandoned well.
If it's abandoned.
TDLR, it has to be capped or
Right.
plugged properly under the statute TDLR. That's the state, not us, but we adopt those by reference, those rules.
Well, wait, I'm confused. If they abandon the permit, they don't have.
Not the permit, the well. Actually abandoned the well.
Okay,
And there's a statute.
Hillcorp has
definition
not
of that.
abandoned any of their wells.
okay. So the only downside to abandoning the permit is that if they want to resurrect it, they're gonna have to resurrect it under the new rules rather than the old rules.
There's no resurrecting, it's just come back and ask for a new permit.
But
The only downside is if y'all decided to change spacing rules.
Right.
And it affected their aquifer, then you're in a different boat.
Okay,
Most of these wells are not in the Simsboro. Okay, you've brought the Simsboro to the Sparta, and Watt Jackson, and everything else. Everything is on even ground at this point. So it doesn't appear there's going to be any downside to any of them abandoning a well, except if it happened to be a Simsboro well, which I believe I don't think we have. I think we have three that are Simsboro wells that are in production, and they're permitted and they're already being paid for. So
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, you go.
No, you, all you.
All right, so if Chris has a permit and he hasn't drilled the well and he hasn't pumped any water,
we're gonna charge him anyway.
and you haven't charged him in the past, and now you're gonna charge.
Just saying. Chris. Okay, go ahead now. I'm sorry for.
You answered my question. I thought that's what it was. I just wanted to make sure.
No.
So if I've never paid before, now I must have to start paying.
If you've drilled and completed your well and it's capable of producing water.
Oh, okay,
If you
But
have
still-
not drilled that well, you are not even being considered.
okay.
The first time you will ever have any consequences on your permit that you've gotten your permit and you go 3 years and 1 day and you haven't completed the well, now there's consequences
But
financially.
if you're not producing, if you're not pumping any water out of the ground, and you're gonna get charged.
That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
If it's not an ag well.
If it's not an ag well. Now, I propose on the ag wells and steam electric that you leave the rate exactly like it is, just as we've shown earlier, but it's still, everyone is on authorized amounts.
Yeah.
Okay, not metered amounts, authorized amounts.
And per our enabling act, ag and
Steam electric.
steam electric have a much lower rate. It's based on acre foot, not 1,000 gallons. And real quickly, 2 seconds to go back on your question and to disagree with what Alan said is 36.122 E1 says maximum level rate a district may impose for export fee increases by 3% each calendar year. It doesn't talk about the compounded and all that stuff that's in our enabling act. So I think by the plain language of that, it goes up 20, every calendar year, it's 20 plus 3%.
We can do it 3% every year.
3% cumulative or
It
3%
just
compound?
says the cap goes up 3% every calendar year.
Okay.
It's not talking about cumulative compounded, it doesn't have any of that complicated
But you
language.
would still have to have the fee hearing every year
Those
to
are
adopt
two-
it.
No.
No? Okay.
Those are two separate things. E1 talks about effective January 1st, 2024, the maximum allowable rate is may impose for an export fee increases by 3% each calendar year. So Andy, that's right. I'll have to go back.
That's fine.
Okay.
Go back
You
and
have time to
look
figure
at
that
that
out.
one. Yeah.
I have a question here on number 7.
Okay.
What's the overproduction fee? I don't know that I've ever seen that. before.
Okay, we can, in our rules, we can charge for overproduction and we do. So occasionally I'll have a permit.
It's
that-
really enforcement.
Yeah.
It's just a
They-
set enforcement fee.
What ought to be the maximum that we can charge?
Well, that's why that's why we clarified the language, is that in recently in federal court for the Western District in the Hayes Trinity Groundwater Conservation District Aqua Water case, they charged them overproduction fees and as enforcement fees, and the court judge said that those were completely authorized by Chapter 36. And so what this is saying is they would be an enforcement fee of overproduction. The initial fee would be this amount or whatever you set. But after that initial year of busting it, then we could go all the way up to the max, whatever the board decides.
So here's an example. I have a permit and they are permitted for 30 acre feet. They turn it on and they're putting it into a pond. I'm giving you a real example. They turn it on and they never turned it off the entire year. Somebody went over and turned it on, said, we need water in the pond. There's nobody to turn it off. And they run 45 acre feet. Okay. And unbeknownst to them, we read the meter. Oh my goodness, they've run 45. You make the phone call and go, hey, did you know? Did you know this? Or is this something that you anticipate you're going to be doing in the future? Because if you are, you need to come in. Get an
Oh, very
amendment.
interesting.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to get an amendment, okay? And now going away from metered production and going to permitted amount. Yeah, we're still gonna say you need, we still have meters on the wells, and we're still gonna require metered product, actual numbers to be given to us, but would have no, I can foresee going, well, I've already paid my fees. It was 30, I paid them. I'm not gonna pay you any more. So this puts someone in the position that, yes, we're recognizing you overproduced. And the rate that I put in it, you can put it, whatever rate you want to put in there. I just put the full rate of, okay, as I explained earlier, the dividing the 119 into 1.4 million. So it's a disincentive for them to overproduce.
Yeah, I just think it needs to be a little more painful.
So.
Y'all want to handle that? That's not, I was not trying to just be painful.
Well, I know, I mean, to me, I mean, they got a permit, they should pay attention to how much they're supposed to produce. I mean,
I agree.
I mean, if I'm paying the same amount I would pay, what's the purpose for me getting a bigger permit?
How do you stop Jason from pumping more than permit? How do you stop?
I mean, if I'm gonna pay the same amount, I mean, I'm not stopping at 20,000 acre feet. I'm gonna pump 25 if I need it. I mean, what? To me, it needs to hurt.
Well, it already hurts a little bit, right?
I mean, there's not a process, we can stop it legally.
It's an injunction, an injunction on it.
Well, that's, I mean.
You can do it, you can assess a fine, or do injunction through court.
This has been a very rare instance for us.
Yeah, no, I just think, I mean, if I looked at it, it's like, oh man, if I overpumped, I'm still paying the same amount that I would have paid
Cost
anyway.
of
So,
business.
This is just,
yeah, so what's the disincentive for me to do
And
that?
it's not apples to apples. And Panhandle 2024 was the first year that they had already in production. That district checks every meter themselves. They had 4 years of, and they started assessing for overproduction. And they started out, they lowered their fees. Only an example, they started with a lower one, and in the second year it increases. So it gets painful, it gets, and I think that's kind of the idea that you're kind of first one, shame on you, or the rest, it goes much higher, like a warning.
Alan, isn't that item
Y'all,
number 7
obviously.
is for this year, 2025? So it's
Yes, just for
actually more.
2025, yes. But my point in labeling it an overproduction fee is that that's a subset of an enforcement fee, and that's very important because Aqua Water, they challenged that groundwater district saying that it was raising it above their authorized production fee, and that was ultra-virus and not allowed under the law. And the court did not buy it, said, no, of course it's an enforcement fee, it's
So-
not a production fee.
So here's the wording that Monique added. So you see under overproduction, then the initial fee for producing more groundwater in the first year than is authorized, the applicable permit is 0.036 per 1,000 gallons produced above the permitted amount. If compliance is not achieved and overproduction occurs in any subsequent year or years, then the board may set reasonable civil penalties against any person for breach of any rule of the district not to exceed $10,000 per day per violation. And each day a continuing violation constitutes a separate violation. So that was wording she added. I wouldn't have known that.
So I'm good with the 10,000. I just,
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, that's the second year.
And here's what I found. Anytime in my 12 years, someone is overpumped, they didn't know they did it. And I've had one that came and said, I'm gonna need that much water, and we amended the permit, okay? Most of them cut it right back to where somebody goes, I didn't want to pay $500. We thought we were gonna pay $100, and all of a sudden the homeowners association paying a whole lot more money, and they go, oh my gosh, well, somebody's got to pay attention to that. So I've been, I guess, fortunate that there's not gonna been any real issues, okay?
Alan, there.
Yes.
And wait, one second real quickly, and just let me. In doing that, Panhandle had only about 12 permittees. They had 90, they had cover 8 counties. They had 90-something% compliance. they had only about 12 people, multiple wells, but 12 people that, or entities that over permitted, they all paid. And the new North Plains groundwater district ruling that came out at the Northern District that is binding on them would certainly affect them and affect us. And it clearly says that one also was overproduction and that it was authorized under the rules.
So in your book, you see that last page, those are the rates that I'm suggesting to you that we have worked through on these workshops, leaving agriculture at 0.1975 per acre foot based on authorized permitted amount. Did I say that wrong?
I don't know.
I said one, I think. 0.1975 cents per acre foot based on authorized permitted amount. Steam electric use at 0.31 per acre foot based on authorized permitted amount. Municipal, rural water supply, commercial, and industrial at 0.01465 per thousand gallons of authorized permitted amount. The export fees, tier one being the difference of 17 cents per thousand gallons authorized, not transported during the year, and the adopted production fee. And tier two being the 20.6 cents per thousand gallons of metered and transported water. And then an overproduction fee that we've just talked about, which is subject to your revision. And I would say that at the very bottom, it says collect fees during the fiscal year in which production occurred or will occur.
I do have two questions. One, that may just be taken. Number one, to clarify on your number 7 on the previous slide and our page, our item number 13, right? That overproduction fee is just specified for the year 2025. Next year, we can make it 20 times whatever that is. Right?
What you're
Whatever
doing
we want.
today is only for 2025 period.
Okay, so
You
that's
have to do
double.
this annually.
Okay, so that's double what the normal rate for 2025. So the other thing that I wanted to, well, going back on that, so back on the item 7, that very last number in that calculation you have in parentheses, that's, should be acre foot. That should be 11.73 acre feet instead of the 0.036 thousand. It's the same value. but
It is,
That
but we
calculation.
have based everything we've ever done, Gary, other than in steam electric and in agriculture. We change anything we want to change. Those are the only ones that are based on per acre foot because that's what it says in our enabling act. Everything else is based on.
Yeah,
per
I think what he's saying is that last sentence, that last calculation is divided by acre feet, so it's not.
Oh, I see. I
Dollars.
see.
It's not
I
dollars.
got you. I got
You
you.
could put another,
I got
Yeah.
change the
Okay.
formula and
I
make it
I can do that.
that.
I left it out. Apologize.
And then, the other question I had was, the text that you have in, go back to the next page. That the only text that's not red, it's black,
Yes.
it's included in your recommendation, adopt the resolution, but it's not in the resolution.
So I need to ask her if she
Should
wants
it be
me
in the
to
resolution?
include that in the resolution. I didn't think that was the case, but that's why I didn't put
Which
it in
one?
there. The
The
if
compliance is not a
compliance
cheat sheet.
That, yes.
into the resolution.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I got one more here, just to clarify. You've got 4 categories up there. The first 4 categories, ag, steam, municipal, commercial. You're raising about $500,000 as a result of this change, is that right?
About $570,000.
Okay. Where does that money come from, those 4 categories?
Most of it,
most of it?
numbers 3 and 4,
Okay.
really, number 3.
All right, but does any of it come from ag and steam?
Yes, total amount that, based on what we're doing is about $8,800 total. Okay,
What,
6,000 and some change for ag
okay,
and 20, you think 8 on, steam labor.
because you're changing it from produced to authorized.
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
I'd ask that you approve the, fee structure as we have thoroughly discussed.
Entertain a motion?
We need to say that we're gonna modify the resolution.
I would put it in your motion to include
Well-
that language here.
What you're doing, the way it's, you've got to approve the fees by resolution.
Yeah.
So I think Gary's right in saying, and add that wording to the resolution.
So not only are we we're approving all this, not only the fees, but then the other part where they're charging people for not, we're approving the per minute amount.
Correct,
Yes.
Okay.
The charge based on that.
by resolution.
And the last
The
line,
resolution is in your packet,
the
okay?
last line also, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I entertain a motion.
Is that your motion, Gary?
Not sure exactly how to word it, but I think Alan was trying to say.
I think you would say.
He's
something-
recommending that we accept the resolution as presented with the changes noted, which was one, changing the calculation on item number 13. And inclusion of the language that's in the recommendation regarding the overproduction for more than a year included in the resolution section above the recommendation section.
Yes.
I have a motion.
I thought that was the motion.
It is. Need a second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Did you know? Yeah, so that was a no, not on this.
Item number 5, discussion and possible action on entering into a contract with Bannock Masonry related to the repair of the western brick wall of the district office.
That wall is directly behind us. When we tore the building down, it got demolished. There was repairs that needed to be made. The building maintenance committee and building committee, which was Mark and Jason and Jeff, we decided for me to contact 3 masonry entities to look at the wall, give us a bid, see what can be done. I did contact Frankie Summerlin. He came, did not give us anything but an oral bid. He said it's gonna be at least $40,000. Then I spoke with Chad Bannock Masonry. He did give us a bid of $9,900. And then I talked to Mr., what's his name?
Hyde?
Mr. Hyde, Gary Hyde. He was interested. He looked, gave us a bid of just north of $17,000. He didn't carry insurance. Talked to Chad, they do carry insurance, and he was the lowest of the bids. I did ask him, and I have not talked to him. I asked him to also come out. He was going to be out yesterday, look at the wall and see what it would take to, once it repaired, is go ahead and seal it. So he needed to measure the wall, and then he was going to get back with me. So I would ask, talk to the building committee has talked, and I believe we're at a point to ask for approval to get this wall repaired. You've got it in the budget for next year. We included that. Get this wall repaired. And if you have a reasonable cost on sealing it, to go ahead and approve to do that also. It needs to be sealed. I just don't have a number in hand right now.
What's your guesstimate of what a reasonable cost is for that?
I'm gonna say it's gonna be somewhere 1,500 to 2,000. That's just a guess.
Okay,
Absolutely a guess. You could leave it up to, that part of it up to, in a motion to the, building committee to,
Delegate authority.
and, I'd ask that we approve getting the repair with that caveat that, to try and also get the seal while we're there.
all right. Any questions from the board? Not entertain a motion?
How about a resolution to pay the 9,900 plus not to exceed $3,000 to seal also?
Board action. to do that, yeah.
All right, 9,900 plus another 3,000. Here a second.
Yeah, I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, discussion and possible action on entering into a contract with Sabrina T. Brown related to legislative consultant services during the FY 2025.
Legislative session is gonna start January the 14th, and, I think that, with all that's gone on, in our neck of the woods and what happened where we are, that, we've talked about this in the, budget, workshop, that we need someone on point this session. We haven't had anyone at the Capitol since 2019, I believe.
Sabrina was a prior lobbyist for the
Yeah.
district. She was lobbyist for the district when it was created, both in 99 and 01, and getting the legislation passed, and many subsequent sessions after that, and represents other Delaware districts as well as other clients.
So you worked with her before?
I
You
worked with
worked-
her extensively, yes.
Okay.
So I'm good. I mean, I truly believe, and I've said it in the workshops, if you're going to cut something out, this wouldn't be the one for this particular, budget year. So, my recommendation is to, enter into a contract with, Sabrina, for this fiscal year. It is $60,000, and it is monthly. So it's not just session. It is for the entire year, fiscal year 20,
Exclusive of no additional expenses.
with
flat fee.
no additional expenses. That's correct.
Any questions for the general manager? If not, entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we enter into a contract with Sabrina T. Brown.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Mo-
Mark.
Motion carries. We're going to skip 7, 8, 9, go to the 10, general manager's report.
Hey. There's your Texas drought map. Right when we got, it didn't help a lot on the map. Heard a lot of 6/10 to 8/10. And we got a long winter. So let's hope things get better, but it's still not the best in the world. I'm now sending out, you're getting these weekly, both a meteorological long-term polar drought map, which is this one here. And the hydrological is what's happening right now. Meteorological is looking over time, and the hydrological is more focused on right now. Okay, so that's why you're getting those two. Right now, things are okay on both. And then the last one, we still are in that zone of continued persistent drought. Moving on to the next page, which is our 2 pages here. This is our numbers of permits, the MAG, what's actually been produced in particular years all the way back to 2009. The next page, I think it's just a summation of all permits. Okay, page. And this is wells that were permitted by the general manager during 2020, November 2024. That was 0. Sempra Mitigation Management Depletion Zone, boy, that's a long title. John continues to work on adding wells to our total list. We're up to 556 that we've either visited, we've identified through well log and location, or suspect on Sempra wells. I think that number is still going to go up just a little bit more. I don't know that we get to the 612 that James and the gang at AGS have come up with, but it'll be close. I still, Mr. Optimistic thinks that we'll get to them all before the end of the year. I don't know. So we're John's working diligently to that's exactly one of the reasons that we needed to have someone else on the payroll, because I've got him stretched. We've got lots of monitoring wells, and then we've got that whole project going on. So anyway, that's that. Good. DFC planning, very quickly on that. Tomorrow is the GMA 12 meeting. And I will bring forward that we would like, on our interlocal agreement, to have equal payment between the 3 districts that are really the main users of water, and bring everybody to 32% of that. So that's basically what that is. We'll listen to the final 3 factors, and then we will begin in 2025, actually beginning to run our models and get down to the brass tacks of things. Okay. And let's see if there's anything here. Back at the back, he's had a child. He's now back in the classroom as of yesterday, right? Yesterday. So things are getting ready to pick up there. All pretty standard here. You guys can look through. I did have met at length with Representative Dyson, who's the Bryan College Station rep. Had a really great talk. He was very receptive. I really liked having that talk. And I have initially met with Trey Wharton at our meeting we had in Brazos River workshop. Got to talk to him for about maybe 10 minutes, but he and I agreed to meet, and I'll probably go over to Huntsville and meet him and have a cup of coffee and get ahead of this next legislative session. I will say, and then I will be quiet, the one that says bringing the Brazos Together workshop, which was on the 9th, we had 95 people show up. It was not only well attended, but I think it achieved every goal and exceeded every goal and objective that I had, which was try to dispel some of the misinformation that's out there and get people to actually talk to each other. And we got down in the room. We had Gulf Coast Water Authority, the Brazos River Authority, Texas Water Trade, Environmental Defense Fund, and myriad landowners and water rights owners.
And Dow Chemical.
Did I not say that? Dow Chemical. So I considered it a serious success, and everybody wanted to see a follow-up to it. So we'll see what that looks like. But right now, we believe it was a success. Go on to the you've also got the update on your on the management plan. So I'll not go through that. Y'all can go through that.
All right. Any questions on general manager's report? All right. Monique, are we going to executive session?
We're going to executive session. I hope it won't be too long, and and just for the public, I don't anticipate any action afterwards, but that is not up to me, that's up to the board, so I can't promise it.
Item number 7, executive session, Texas Government Code 551071, to receive attorney-client privileged information regarding pending transport permit applications for groundwater from the Simsboro Aquifer, pending writ of mandamus filed by the Texas A&M University System and Brazos County District Court, and related petitions for interventions and declaratory judgment in water production, export, and administrative fees. At this time, the board will go in executive session. The water is coming out of executive session this morning. We have no actions. Item number 11, discussion and possibility future agenda items. Board have anything that is to discuss? Any future agenda items? Done. That has a holiday and I have to be there. Okay.